Hi guys, welcome back to ABoC Studio. In today's video, we are going to crochet this Solomon skirt. Here you can see with the same pattern, we have two versions. I love the full mesh look, but it might be challenging to style with your everyday outfit. So the cover-up version is more practical, but still beautiful. Now first, let's talk about tools and materials. For this project, we're going to use the 4.5mm crochet hook. If you don't have this hook, you can use the 5mm or 5.5mm. For yarn, I would recommend using DK or Aran yarn. In this tutorial, I use this Aran yarn, and you will also see me mix it with this lace mohair. And this is just personal preference. I feel like the crochet fabric turned out much more interesting and beautiful when you mix two different types of yarn together like this. But you can go for a single strand, it doesn't really matter. You may also want to keep in mind that the fabric created by Solomon Stitches would look best with bouncy and light yarn. I would say that for Aran or DK yarn, it should give you around 200 meters for 100 grams of yarn. Of course, the lighter the better. You can check the bounciness of the yarn by just squeeze it, and it should bounce back like so. I have an example here. You can see that when you squeeze this yarn, it doesn't really bounce back as much as this yarn. So the bouncier the yarn, the better. So you can see. We're gonna start with the chainless foundation technique, and for this pattern we use double crochet foundation. If you've never practiced the double crochet foundation before, I have an in-depth tutorial for that, and you can find the link down in the description. For those who already know this technique, here's a quick recap in case you need it. So we're gonna start with a chain 3. Then we're gonna put the first double crochet foundation into the first chain. So yarn over, insert the hook in the first chain, draw our loop, bring that last loop a little up, yarn over, pull through one loop, that's the foundation, and then finish the double crochet with yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that is the first double crochet foundation with this beginning chain, which is a chain 2. Moving on to the second double crochet foundation, yarn over, insert the hook under the foundation that's shaped like an 8, draw our loop, and again bring that last loop a little up, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's the second one. Now let's repeat that. Yarn over, insert the hook under the foundation, draw our loop, bring that loop a little up, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that is 3 double crochet foundation with this beginning chain. Now we're gonna repeat the same process until this double crochet foundation is long enough, and to measure it, I will put all the information you need on the screen. In order for the Solomon pattern to work later when we get to it, the number of stitches we have on this foundation should be a multiple of 4 plus 2. So basically what we need to do is to count all the stitches on this foundation, including this chain 2, the beginning chain, count as 1 stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way until the end. And then we're gonna write this number down and fix it into the closest bigger number that follows the rule. Usually we're gonna need to put 1 to 3 more double crochet foundation If you get lucky, the original number already followed the rule, but we're still gonna need to count and check just to make sure. If you are really good at math and calculating, this should be very easy for you. In case you need some help, please follow the instruction on the screen. Moving on, we are going to join this foundation into the round, and you want to make sure that the round is not twisted. So you put it like this. It shouldn't be twisted like so, alright? You want it to be nice and round. And put this working yarn above and away like that. And you will see in the written pattern that we're going to join this round with a slip stitch into this first double crochet. So next to this beginning chain, the chain 2, you will see the V on top of the double crochet, and that's where we want to insert the hook. So insert the hook right there, and then with the working yarn, draw our loop, draw that loop through the loop on the hook, and that's the slip stitch. We're gonna need to tighten up that slip stitch because it kind of looked like a V. We don't want to mistake it as a stitch, alright? So we pull on the working yarn and the loop on the hook to tighten it up. Okay, and you will see that the slip stitch closes up. At the same time, it gives you back the V on top of this double crochet, right? Now look at the written pattern before moving on to row 2. We are going to chain 2 and turn the work from the right to the left. For row 2, we're going to work double crochet into each stitch across all the way until the end. So let's do that. And I'll meet you in the end of this row to show you what to do next. I'm at the end of this row, and you will see that I have 2 stitches left to work in. 1, 2, and I will do that. At this point, I would recommend you to count the number of stitches you have on this row 2, and remember to count this beginning chain as 1 stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way until this last stitch, just to make sure that you have the same number of stitches as the first row of this foundation. Now moving on, we are going to again slip stitch into this double crochet stitch under that V on top of the stitch to join the round. Like so, draw our loop, draw that loop through the loop on the hook. Don't forget to tighten up the slip stitch, and then chain 2. Turn the work from the right to the left, and the pattern will be pretty much the same. There's nothing new. We double crochet into each stitch across all the way until the end. The process will be just the same. There's nothing new, so please follow the written pattern on the screen. This is how everything should look like by now. You may also notice this slit in the foundation row, and you don't have to worry about it. I will show you how to close this up in the end of the video. Now before we join this row into the round, you want to double check the number of stitches you have on the last row, just to make sure that you are ready to move on to the Solomon pattern. Now in case the number is slightly different, say that you make a mistake somewhere and you have 1 or 2 more stitches different from the right number, you can quickly fix that. Just randomly decrease or increase some stitches on the last row to get back to the right number, as long as the shape of the whole piece still look nice and even, so that you don't have to find the mistake and redo. Now let's move on. Join this row into the round with a slip stitch. Don't forget to tighten up the slip stitch, instead of chain 2 before we turn the work, we're gonna turn the work right away, alright? So from the right to the left. Now follow the written pattern. You will see that we will work single crochet into the first stitch. So insert the hook in the first stitch, draw our loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2 loops for a single crochet. And then we're gonna create 2 Solomon knots. For a Solomon knot, we're gonna first extend the loop on the hook, like so, until it is as long as about 3 V's of the double crochets. And then you want to hold right here. And then with the working yarn, yarn over and pull a loop out of this extend loop, like so. And this is how it should look like. Now to finish this knot, this Solomon knot, we're gonna work a single crochet into this loop right there. Alright, so for a single crochet, you insert the hook, with the working yarn, draw our loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Alright, and that is the first Solomon knot. Now let's do the second one. You want to hold this single crochet like this so that it's easier to work with. Then extend the loop on the hook until it is about just the same length as this first one, or 3 V's of the double crochet. Then with the working yarn, draw our loop, single crochet into this big loop, insert the hook, draw our loop. With 2 loops on the hook, we yarn over and pull through both loops. And that is 2 Solomon knots. Now follow the rhythm pattern. You are going to skip 3 stitches and then slip stitch in the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3. We will slip stitch in here, okay? Insert the hook, draw our loop, and then draw that same loop through this first loop on the hook for a slip stitch. Now again, we are going to tighten up the slip stitch. Moving on, we're going to repeat the same process to create 2 Solomon knots. Extend the loop on the hook until it is about 3 double crochet. So we roughly measure the length of this loop with eyes. It doesn't have to be precise, so just bring it up as you feel. It might feel a little awkward at first, but after a few times practice and get used to it, you will get more comfortable with it. So let's just give it some time, okay? Now after we extend this loop, let's yarn over with the working yarn and bring our loop out of the extend loop, like so. Now single crochet in here, like so, okay? Again, extend the loop on the hook until it's long enough and then yarn over, pull our loop. Okay, single crochet in here. And that's 2 Solomon knots. Skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch in here. So insert the hook, draw our loop, draw that same loop through the loop on the hook, and tighten up. Again, extend the loop until it's long enough, yarn over, pull through, single crochet. Again, extend the loop, hold it right here, yarn over, pull through, single crochet in the loop, and skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch in the next stitch. Okay, one more time, extend the loop on the hook, yarn over, pull through, single crochet into the middle of the loop, and then another one, extend, yarn over, pull through, single crochet, skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in here, And you're gonna repeat the same process until you closer to the end of the row. When you have a few stitches left, I will meet you right there to show you what to do next. Alright, so I'm at the end of this row and you can see that I have 4 stitches left. And this is the reason why we need the right number of stitches on this last row so that we have exactly 4 stitches at the end. Let's finish this row. I will again create 2 Solomon knots. Like so. And then skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. And slip stitch in this last stitch. So the Solomon pattern is impossible to work in the round. That's why we are not going to join each row into the round anymore. And from now we're going to work on the open fabric instead of in the round. Now before moving on to the next row, we are going to make 3 Solomon knots. So 1, 2, and 3. Alright, like so. Then we're gonna turn the work again from the right to the left. This is how it should look like by now. Next we are going to slip stitch into this single crochet between these 2 Solomon knot you see here. Okay, so you just need to insert the hook right in the middle, right here, like so. And then with the working yarn, bring our loop, like so. And then bring that same loop through the first loop on the hook, like so. And then tighten it up. Okay, and this is how it should look like. Moving on, we are going to again create 2 Solomon knots. So 1, 2. This is how it should look like. And then slip stitch into this next single crochet. Make sure that you don't slip stitch into this part. We need to slip stitch into this single crochet right here in the middle of these 2 knots. Okay, so insert the hook. So insert the hook right in the middle, like so. Bring our loop with the working yarn. Bring that same loop through the first loop on the hook and tighten up. That's how it should look like. And then again 2 Solomon knots. Slip stitch into this single crochet here. Tighten up the slip stitch and then another 2 Solomon knots. Slip stitch into this single crochet like so, and we're gonna repeat this same process all the way until the end of this row, and it will look something like this. I will meet you right here closer to the end to show you what to do next. All right? You can see here that I am closer to the end of the row, and I will finish that. 2 Solomon knots, slip stitch in the single crochet, and then again 2 Solomon knots, and slip stitch into this last one. Alright, and this is how it should look like by now. Now before moving on to the next row, we're gonna make 3 Solomon knots. 1, 2, and 3. Then turn the work from the right to the left. Slip stitch into the first loose single crochet that you see right there. Okay. And then again we're gonna repeat pretty much the same process. 2 Solomon knots, slip stitch into this loose single crochet. Be careful not to work single crochet in here, okay? So you want to single crochet in here. Alright, then again 2 Solomon knots, and slip stitch in this loose single crochet knot here. Okay, we're gonna work slip stitch in here and repeat the same process until you get closer to the end of this row, somewhere here, and I will meet you right there to show you one more time what to do next. At the same time, I will show you a few common mistakes that might happen to us when we're working with the Solomon pattern. You can see I'm at the end of this row and I have 2 Solomon stitch left to work in. I'm gonna finish that. 2 Solomon knots, and then slip stitch in this single crochet where these 2 knot meets, and then another 2 Solomon knots, and slip stitch in this last one. Alright, this is how it should look like. To finish the row, we're gonna work 3 Solomon knots. And 3. And then turn the work from the right to the left for the next row. Now here is where the common mistake might take place. In the end of each row after the 3 Solomon knots, you may forget to turn the work and start to work in the wrong side of the fabric instead. So right now it's really short, so it's hard to mistake it, but when it's get longer, like this, right, this is the finished piece. So let's just say that there are 3 Solomon knots here. Instead of turning the work to work on this edge, you might forget to turn the work and work on this edge, which is the slit of the dress, right? So keep that in mind so that you won't have to go back and fix your mistake, right? So now turn the work, slip stitch into the single crochet between these two Solomon knots. All right, this first one, tighten up the slip stitch, and that's how it should look like. Okay, and again 2 Solomon knots. Make sure that it is 2 Solomon knots. Sometime after these 3 knots, you might work an extra knots here and it will mess up the pattern. So just make sure that you only make 3 knots by the end of each row. And in the middle of the row, it always gonna be 2 knots. And then be careful not to work in the cross point of 4 Solomon knot here. You want to find the single crochet between these 2 knots. And then slip stitch in there. And the pattern will be pretty much the same. You'll repeat the same process until the skirt is long enough for you. And I will meet you right there to show you how to close up this slit. I'm at the end of this row where I feel like the skirt is long enough, and you can see that I have 1 stitch left to work in, and I will do that to finish this row. And now before we close up the slit, I will first need to show you how it works. So let's put it like this. And I'll put a paper right under here so that it's easier to show you. When you look at the Solomon fabric, there's 2 ways to look at it. One with these 4 petal flowers, right, next to each other, and the other is this kind of round ornament next to each other. Now, if we close the slit right away, the flower on this edge would be next to this round ornament on the other edge. And it doesn't really make sense if we just go ahead and put these 2 together. So now let's just look at it with this, like this round ornament. And here you will find that this ornament is unfinished. There's just half of it, right? So what we need to do is to fill up the other half to finish that round ornament, so that when we close the slit, the 2 round ornaments would be next to each other. What I want you to do is to take a clippers or a stitch marker or anything that you can use to mark the edge that we need to finish the ornament. You can determine it by looking at the first row. It will be this one, okay? And let's put it right here where it's easy to see, okay? So we will know that we need to add 1 more rows on this edge. And then let's go back to where we are. If right now your working yarn is in the same place with this edge that you just marked, then you are good to go. You just need to wait for me a little bit, and I'll meet you right there when I get to the same place as you are right now, all right? And for those who have the working yarn on the other side, not on the same edge that we marked, like me, we're gonna go ahead and add 1 more row just one more row so that we can have the working yarn on this corner. So I'll meet you right there to show you what to do next. All right, so let's do it the same way we did before. We're gonna need to make 3 Solomon knots before turning the work, and then turn it this way, slip stitch in here, and then we're gonna repeat the same thing that we did before all the way until the end of the round. I'll meet you right there to show you what to do next. Alright, so I'm at the end of this row and I have 1 stitch left. I will do that. In here. Alright, now that the working yarn is in the same edge as where we mark, we're gonna go ahead and make 3 Solomon knots, just the same way that we finish every row before we turn. And now instead of turning the work from the right to the left to put another row in the bottom edge, we're gonna just go this way and work on the edge that we mark instead of the bottom edge, right? So we'll do the same thing. You see, we're gonna work in this single crochet. The first stitch will be in there. It's pretty much the same as the bottom edge, so just go for it. And then 2 Solomon knots. Move on to the next stitch, next single crochet stitch. We can remove this already. Okay, and let's just keep going the same way we did before. There's actually nothing new until you go all the way to this, the very beginning of the slit, and I will meet you somewhere here to show you what to do next. Alright, so you can see here that I'm closer to the end. I just made 1 Solomon knot. Now the second one, I will put it in here. And then the last one, we're gonna put right here where the slit begins, right here. So let's make 2 Solomon knots. And then slip stitch right there where it all begins. So let's see this one, okay? All right. So, and close out the slip stitch. Now, this is how it should look like. And now you can see that the pattern on the 2 edges match. So now we can go ahead and close the slit up, but remember that we want to just partly close the slit. There still need to be part of the slit so that we can move easily when we're wearing the skirt. I would recommend to close the slit just enough where it gets around above your knees. So you can put it on your body and find out where you want to stop the closing. Mine would be there so that I know when I get there. Alright, so to close the slit up, it's very simple. First, you're gonna make a Solomon knot that is a little bit shorter than the one that we usually do. And then finish it with a single crochet like so. And then we're gonna first put these 2 round ornaments together. So the single crochet where 2 Solomon knots meet. Let me put it this way, it's going to be easier to do it, okay? So you want to do the same. Insert the hook in this first single crochet and then the other one here. Bring our loop and bring that loop through the loop on the hook. and close it up. So basically it's just a slip stitch, okay? And then we're gonna make a Solomon knot that is just as tall as the normal Solomon knot. So this one needs to be a little short, but the second one will be just as tall as the normal one, even just a little bit taller than the normal one we would do, okay? So, and finish it like so. And then you will find the second round ornaments that we want to put together. So be careful, these are two flowers. You don't want them together. It will be these two single crochet, okay? So in there, and then in there, and then a slip stitch, and close it up. And then repeat the same thing, a tall Solomon knot, like so, and then put two round ornaments together, like so, not the flowers, okay? So one on this edge, one on the other edge, and slip stitch. And then another tall Solomon knot. Alright, so that's where I want to stop closing, and that's how it should look like. That's how we close the slit of the Solomon pattern, and then this part where we're just gonna leave it open like so. And let's bind off by just chain 1 and cut. Leave a long enough tail so that we can weave it in later. Cut it, pull on the tail. All right, and we are almost done. I will now show you how to close this slit in the first row. So we're gonna need to take a yarn needle, right? And you just put it in. And then find this double crochet next to the beginning chain and put the yarn in there. All right, and then put it like this. Close, try to close it up. And now we're gonna weave this tail back into the piece by just going into the stitches. The trick is not to put the tail like in the straight line. You want to put it up and down, right to the left, so that it will stay nicely in the fabric and won't unravel by itself in the future. And when you feel like it's enough, you can just stretch the piece to reposition the tail in the fabric, and then cut it really close to where you finish off, and that's it. Okay, now let's do this one. It's gonna be a little bit more tricky because the fabric here is a bit more loose, but you will find a way. We will mostly just put it in and out in this last knot, right? So just put it into the knot and then just do it a few times. Okay, like so. I would do it for about 5 to 4 times just to feel safe. All right. Okay, that's enough. When you feel like it's enough, we can just cut it off. And it's done. If you feel like it's necessary, you can make like a really long chain string. Put it in the first row to use like a drawstring closure for the waist. Especially when your hip is much more larger than your waist, then this would be very helpful. For me, my hip it's not that large compared to my waist, so I don't really need it, but I will show you how I put this chain in the first row just in case you need it, okay? So this is the back of the skirt, right? We put it in front. If you want the string to be hidden, you can put it in the wrong side of the skirt. Whichever side you decide that it is the wrong side. And then just find the middle of the skirt. Put it in like this. All the way around, okay?